जिंदगी है कौम की, तो कौम पे लुटाए जा, कदम कदम बढ़ाए जा, खुशी के गीत गाए जा, ये जिंदगी है कौम की, तो कौम पे लुटाए जा.
Do you recognize the historical song that was played in the video that you viewed last? Well, it was the regimental quick march of Subhash Chandra Bose's Indian National Army. Any discussion on the Indian national movement and the path that India followed to its independence is incomplete without the mention of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, whose name still stirs an emotion in the hearts and minds of the Indian people. So Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was born in Cuttack on 23rd January 1897. Subhash from a very young age was influenced by the ideas of Swami Vivekananda and Aurobindo Ghosh. From his adolescent days, he is known to have been driven towards the nationalistic movements. Thus, we see that since childhood, Subhash Chandra Bose was greatly inspired by the words of Swami Vivekananda and Aurobindo Ghosh. It was only a matter of time that these ideas and ideologies would come in the forefront to make Subhash Bose who he was to become next. The first step towards his nationalistic journey was taken when Subhash Chandra Bose resigned from the Indian Civil Services in 1921 as his protest against the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. After he resigned from his place on 23rd of April, he returned back to India from London. After his return from London, we see that Subhash Chandra Bose was introduced to the nationalist movement and the Indian National Congress by Gandhi. So when he returned to India in 1921, Bose came under the influence of Mahatma Gandhi and joined the Indian National Congress. As you can see in this picture, we see Mahatma Gandhi and Subhash Bose together. Very soon, Subhash Chandra Bose and Jawaharlal Nehru also grew very close, and in fact, they were the first people to give a call for Swaraj. So we see that Subhash Chandra Bose and Jawaharlal Nehru became the symbols of change in the early 1930s. Now, with the growth of Subhash Chandra Bose's popularity, we see Subhash Chandra Bose coming in the forefront of Indian politics at that point of time when he got elected as the president of Congress at its Haripura session in 1938. But with Subhash Chandra Bose's growing popularity, what also came in the forefront was the clash between Subhash and Mahatma Gandhi. Well, Mahatma Gandhi was a believer of non-violence, whereas Subhash's ideals were much more aggressive and militant in nature. Subhash Chandra Bose innately believed in the idea that providing the British with military support during the World War was not the ideal way how the leaders were to lead India into independence. He thought that this was the time when the British were in a tough position and they could pressurize the British into giving India her long due independence. So we see that Subhash was in fact ready to seek foreign support to free the country if necessary, which was actually opposed by Mahatma Gandhi. So like we discussed that Bose was against Gandhi's decision to lend military support to the British during the Second World War. Now, Gandhi's and Subhash Chandra Bose's rift came in the forefront and came in the open when we see that presidential election for the Congress session happens in 1939. So during the Congress elections of 1939, we see that Gandhi and the working committee members supported Pattabhai Sitaramaiah as a presidential candidate against Subhash. But, to the surprise of Gandhi, Subhash actually won the election and became the president. Gandhi stated this as a very personal defeat. So, Subhash won the elections and was re-elected the president for Indian National Congress. Now, when Gandhi stated this as a very personal defeat, Subhash realized that this was a very toxic, environment to work in, and he decided to give up his presidentship. So the Congress also was staunchly supporting, Gandhi, because they were staunch followers of Gandhi at that point of time, and the Congress Working Committee refused to cooperate with Subhash, and he was in fact pushed to give up his presidentship. So Subhash Chandra Bose resigned from his post in 1939, and he was replaced by Rajendra Prasad. In order to carry on with his nationalistic mission, Subhash Chandra Bose went ahead and formed his own party, which was called the All India Forward Bloc. He also established a newspaper by the name of Forward Bloc, which was launched in 1939. As you can see, this is the logo for the party that was established by Subhash Chandra Bose, which was the All India Forward Bloc. Now, can you tell me, when was the newspaper titled Forward Bloc launched? Was it in 1936, 1939, 1942 or 1938? The correct answer will be 1939. Now, what were the objectives of the Forward Bloc? The first objective was to unite various socialist groups within the Congress. Second, to develop an alternative leadership within the Congress. And third, to lay stress on militant action in struggle for freedom against the British. So, to take military steps if necessary to fight against the British. Very soon, due to his militant activities, Subhash Chandra Bose came under the radar of the police, and he was kept under house arrest from January 1941. But Subhash Chandra Bose realized that it was time for him to leave and start to garner support from all across the world in order to achieve independence for India. His main focus was on achieving a militaristic approach per se that could take India forward, so that it can fight against the British even through the ideas of military and army. But you have to remember that Subhash Chandra Bose was under house arrest. So how did he come out of it? So Subhash Chandra Bose was under house arrest and he wanted to escape. Now he dressed himself as a Pathan and escaped from his house of Elgin Road in Calcutta. Now he realized that it was important to garner militaristic support from the international sectors as well, because at that point of time, Second World War was going on, and countries like Germany, Italy and Japan would in fact support India in the quest. So to escape from there, he went from Calcutta to Kabul to Moscow and finally to Germany. Now in Germany, Subhash Chandra Bose stayed there for quite some time and he tried to garner international support for the cause of Indian independence. Finally, after some time from Germany, he took a submarine and arrived in Japan in 1943, where he found what he was looking for. At this point of time, another famous freedom fighter named as Rashbihari Bose was situated in Singapore, where he was gaining militaristic support for India. Now, Netaji was invited to Southeast Asia by Rashbihari Bose, who finally handed over the charge of the Independence League and the Indian National Army to Subhash Chandra Bose. There came his name famously being called as Netaji by the army, that was the INA, that was formed by Rash Bihari Bose. So who were the INA soldiers who called him Netaji? Now the INA soldiers were the people who were living overseas. These were all Indian people, and in fact these were Indian soldiers who had been fighting for the British. Now when Japan captured several areas under British, these people were taken as prisoners of war who Rash Bihari Bose freed and made into an army that would fight for Indian independence. This was called the Indian National Army, or the Azad Hind Fauj. So the Indian National Army had an all-women regiment which was called the Rani Jhansi Battalion, placed under Captain Lakshmi Swaminathan. And it was in fact one of the first all-women battalion that was there, formed under Subhash Chandra Bose. So we see that on 21st of October 1943, Subhash formed the Azad Hind government and also became its president. So it was a provincial government that he established and found its headquarters in Singapore. Now at that point of time, when Japan was also capturing various areas under the British, it captured Andaman and Nicobar Islands as well, that belonged to India. So what Japan did was, it handed over the nominal administrative powers of Andaman and Nicobar Islands to the Azad Hind government, which renamed these two islands as Sahid and Swaraj Islands respectively. Now Subhash Chandra Bose's INA decided to take the militaristic leap that they had been waiting for or preparing for such a long time. So we see that Subhash led INA across the Indo-Burmese border in 1943, and in May of 1944 the INA captured Imphal and Kohima. However, due to the rainy season, they had to retreat back to the base camp of Burma. In Burma, the army faced tremendous air attacks from the British and a serious lack of supply. But the bad had just only begun. Coincidentally, in August 1945, Japan surrendered to British and USA after the bombings of Hiroshima, Nagasaki, marking the end of the Second World War. The British quickly moved ahead and captured Rangoon, and also captured most of the INA soldiers and officers. Now these soldiers and officers who were captured were tried and given very harsh sentences. People's protests later forced the government to remit the sentences, and Netaji and a few other of his followers, they could escape from the situation. But unfortunately, when Netaji was traveling to Tokyo around August 1945, he died in Taiwan due to a plane crash. Though the Indian National Army was not successful in giving India its freedom that Netaji had dreamt for, but we do need to understand that the plan that Netaji had foreseen by his Indian National Army and by his struggle was in fact able to give the final blow of the nationalistic fervor that was required by the Indians to push forward for the long independence that they waited for. In fact, after just 2 years of this, India had gained its independence. So we can very well say that the struggle of Indian National Army inculcated in people the final dose of aggressive nationalism, and that was only possible because of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly, learn via games, and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it is rewarding too. So register for free now.